Hi, everyone. I was looking around for some videos that I thought would be useful to help you figure out how to do the assignment where you have to correct pronoun errors. And I couldn't find any that I really liked for a variety of reasons. So I decided to record this one for you instead. Excuse me. Um, the topic we're looking at today obviously is pronouns, and there are certain errors that people commit when they use pronouns. The good news is not very often you use pronouns most of the time correctly, but there are a few kind of problem areas that people tend to have some issues with that we want to help you avoid and correct them if you're using them. So, first thing we're going to talk about is for a pronoun, what the heck it is and how do you use it in something called the nominative case. Before we get into that too much, we need to do a very quick review of what a pronoun is. Pronoun is a word that replaces a noun, and we use them um, mostly to streamline how we talk and make it a little easier to understand and make it so it's not so repetitive. Um, in this screen, you can see three sentences that don't have pronouns. They have nouns that are used as a subject of each sentence, and that's what makes it the nominative case. It's a fancy way of saying that the word you're talking about is a subject. So in this sentence, Caitlin threw the ball. Caitlin, which is in green, is the subject because she is performing the action, right? She's actually throwing something. So Caitlin is the subject. Next sentence, Robert knew he was right. Robert is the subject because he is performing the action. He was the person who was knowing, right? He was doing something, he was knowing. Robert is the subject. In this one, you have something called a compound subject, which just is all that means is there's more than one part to it. John and Angela are both the subject combined because John and Angela brought the gift. It wasn't just John, it wasn't just Angela. The two of them together, John and Angela, brought the gift. So you have three sentences, three different subjects, and all of those subjects can be replaced. All those nouns can be replaced by pronouns. And it would look like this. She threw the ball instead of Caitlin threw the ball. Robert turns into he. He knew he was right instead of Robert knew he was right. And they brought the gift instead of John and Angela brought the gift, right? So far, really, really simple. I don't think anybody would have problems with that. To mess it up, actually, you would have to go back to when you were like 2 or 3 years old and say it something like this. Her threw the ball. Him knew he was right. Them brought the gift. And I don't think anyone who's watching this would talk like that, like a caveman, right? Some Neanderthal or something. We know that those are not the right pronouns. They are pronouns, they're just not the right ones used as subjects. Again, it should be she threw the ball, he knew he was right, they brought the gift. She threw, he knew, they brought. On the table here, you can see there are three different cases, nominative, objective, and possessive. We're going to save the possessive case for later on. The nominative case is when you're using it as a subject. And again, the objective case is when you're using it as an object. Um, Pronouns can be singular, talk about one person. Pronouns can be plural, talk about two or more people. When you're talking about one person or multiple people as subjects, you use these words. When you're talking about one person or multiple people as objects, you use these words. And that's, again, where the confusion comes in a little bit. So when you have pronouns, sometimes they're not standing by themselves, just like nouns don't stand by themselves. Sometimes they are combined with other words to make what they call a compound subject. A compound subject is a subject that has more than one part. So in those sentences, mom and them is the compound because mom and them are the subjects, right? Mom and them are the people who went to the store. Him and Christina would be the subject because it's two people, and those are the two people that gave each other their gifts early. Those two people gave, right? So those are the subjects, but there's more than one in each sentence. What we are trying to fix is when you have pronouns that you might be using incorrectly. And there's a way to test that. Again, green words are nouns, blue words are pronouns. So how do you know if them is the right pronoun? How do you know if him is the right pronoun? The good news is it's pretty easy to test. And you test it by taking away the part of the compound subject that you already know for sure. So when you talk about mom and them, you can't change mom, right? You wouldn't want to change that. So you cross her out. And in this one, him and Christina, we know the Christina part of it is right. We just want to check to see if him is right. So you cross out the Christina part. So it would look like this. Cross out the part of the compound that you know, cross out the part of the compound that you know. Then imagine it as if those weren't there, and it would look like this. Them went to the store, him gave each other their gifts early, or him gave something. And you can tell right away those are wrong. I know that you wouldn't speak that way. So all you have to ask yourself is what word should go there. Instead of them went to the store, it should be they went to the store. Instead of him gave something, it should be he gave something. So they and he are the right words. All you have to do is reassemble the sentence using those pronouns and it will be correct. Mom and they went to the store. He and Christina gave each other their gifts early. And I know sometimes it sounds wrong, like mom and they. Almost nobody talks like that. Mom and they went to the store. But you can see why it's correct because you're basically saying mom went to the store, they went to the store, mom and they went to the store. Same thing with he and Christina, right? He gave something, Christina gave something, he and Christina gave each other their gifts. And that would be correct. It would be grammatically correct. And that's how you have to fix those problems on the homework assignment. It's a little bit more confusing, but not much when you have both parts of the compound are pronouns. You're still going to eliminate part of it and test for the other part of it, but you got to do it twice. So here's what it would look like. Let's say you want to test, here's the compound again, her and me, right? They're the subject, her and me, we're glad. How do you test it? Take out, if you want to test for her, take out and me. So literally delete it. Her was glad that Amelia was elected, right? And you have to change the word of was here because now you only got one person. Instead of two people were, it's one person was. So her was glad. Nobody would say it like that. We know that's wrong. So you change it to she was glad. So we know the female one there is going to be she. Go back to the original sentence. How do you test for me? Well, you take out the other part, the her and part. So it looks like this. And you can tell it's not me was glad. It should be I was glad. So reassemble the sentence, put the words that you tested and you know are correct. She and I were glad. So she was glad, I was glad, she and I were glad that Amelia was elected. And that would be absolutely correct. The same kind of thing works in the objective case. The objective case is when the word you're talking about is not the subject, it's the object in the sentence. So in these three sentences, I have names that are typed in green. They are nouns, they're proper nouns, the 5 of these names. All of them could be replaced by pronouns. Okay, the package was delivered to Olivia. Notice she's not doing anything. She's having something delivered to her. That's why she's not the subject. Caitlin is a subject because she's throwing something, but Emily is not. Emily's having something thrown to her. She's not doing anything. She's having something done to her, right? Caitlin threw Emily the ball. Nick drove Tyler to school. Nick is a subject because he's doing the driving. He's doing something. Tyler is not doing that. He's being driven. He's having something done to him, so he's the object. So you put these into pronouns, and it would sound like this. The package was delivered to her. Right? Her would be, again, Olivia. She threw her the ball. She is Caitlin. Her is Emily. Right? He drove him to school. He is Nick. Tyler is him, right? What I want you to notice is, even though these are both females, you don't use the same pronoun. You don't say she and she, or she threw she the ball, right? You don't say he drove he to school, because this is the female pronoun you use when it's a subject. This is the, obviously this is wrong. This is the female pronoun you use when it's the object. Here's the male pronoun you use when it's a subject. Here's the male pronoun you use when it's the object. They're not the same, and they sound wrong when you put them in the wrong spot. So how do you test it when it's a compound again, right? Because there can be compound objects just like there can be compound subjects. It's the same process. The envelope was addressed to Jacob and her. Amber played the song for Sarah and I. Brian showed Devin and myself the photo. Um, Notice these are compounds, right? Jacob and her, Sarah and I, Devin and myself. Those are the compounds in those sentences. How do you test when there's a compound? You take away the one that you know. So in the first sentence, we know Jacob and, so let's get rid of that. In the second sentence, we know Sarah and, let's get rid of her. In the third sentence, you know Devin and, let's get rid of that part. When you take those parts out and you're left with just the pronouns, it looks like this. The envelope was addressed to her, and that's right. It sounds right, and it is right. Amber played the song for I. Something definitely doesn't sound right there. Brian showed myself the photo. Brian showed myself the photo? That doesn't sound right either. And those two are not. This one's fine. The envelope was addressed to her. That's fine. Amber played the song for I. Isn't right. Brian showed myself the photo. Isn't right either. What would you put there? Well, I think you would say Amber played the song for me, and you'd be correct. Brian showed me the photo, and you'd be correct. So we know that the pronouns that are correct are her in the first sentence, me in the second sentence, me in the third sentence. Reassemble the original sentences with the compounds back, and it would be the envelope was addressed to Jacob and her, and that would be correct still. Amber played the song for Sarah and me, which is correct. Brian showed Devin and me the photo, which is also correct. Now, if those last two sound a little odd to you, that you think that no, I've always been taught it's like the other person and I, because that's the polite thing to do. Well, it is considered you're supposed to use the other person's name first, but it's not always I. It's I when it's the subject. Sarah and I listened to the song would be fine. But when somebody played the song, it's not they played it for Sarah and I. They played it for Sarah and me, because you take away Sarah and they played it for me, right? Same thing with Devin and me. Instead of saying like Devin at the beginning of the sentence, you'd say Devin and I looked at the photo, and you'd be right because I looked at the photo. But as an object, it would be Devin and me, because you'd say Brian showed me the photo, not Brian showed I the photo. So I'm hoping that that makes a little bit more sense, and it makes it easier for you to do the assignment. And good luck with getting all of those right. I think you can do fine if you follow the lesson.